Good morning, everybody who didn't see this yet because you just got your alert. But hello to everybody who's watching after the fact. Give it 2 minutes or so, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Is it rainy where you are, Corey? Extremely wet?
Today's a rainy day, yeah.
Yesterday was pouring monsoon style. Like I was driving home from dropping actually I took my son to the doctor and I dropped him back off to my grandmother who babysits. And on the way home, I couldn't even see. I mean, it was raining so hard. It hasn't rained that hard in a while. So it was very monsoony.
No, bummer. No, we had a good day yesterday.
Oh, good. That's interesting. You're only an hour and a half away. It's crazy how isolated those storms can be, but it's pretty crazy. And now it just looks like it's going to rain all day. I'm going to check LinkedIn, make sure everything's good. People are here, and then we can get rolling.
Cool. Excited.
This is going to be a good show, as I feel like all shows are, but especially this one. Got a few people. Give it another minute because we started a little late. I want to make sure sometimes people go to the profile. They think they can't see it. They check around. So give everybody another second, and then we'll get going.
It definitely doesn't populate the way it used to. Like I used to just be able to refresh the feed and it showed up.
I've had people tell me they had to click on my profile and go to it just to see that I was live and hunt me down, which is great. Yeah. Like I appreciate that people are even willing to do that, but it's a lot different than just was one of my lights, just the pop up. And yeah, so there we are. Okay. Cool. How is everybody this morning?
Nick, what's up, man?
And anybody else who's there? Nick, and also Nick. I asked Nick, I was like, how much do you bench? And he was like, Mondays.
You guys.
He was talking about working out is one of his drawings this morning. Okay, we'll get started. Actually, before we officially get going, one of the things I've noticed on LinkedIn, maybe it's because of creator mode or whatever it's called, is I've noticed a lot more creators showing up. And specifically, I mean, people on Upwork who are talking about Upwork on LinkedIn. And I'm not sure if that's who I connected to by accident or if I liked a post or something, but I've noticed a lot more of that on my feed. Is that just me?
I haven't seen that.
Okay, so something I'm doing. I know you got to be careful who you interact with, what you like, where you comment, because it shows you the same thing over and over. So that's where I was looking at. Like, I don't remember what I did, but here we are. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hey, how's it going, Nick? How's it going, Jeff and Stephanie? Thanks for joining us. So yeah, let's kick it off. Let's get started with the show. Today, we're going to be talking about business infrastructure and hiring, but really it's going to be all things profit. Be back in a sec.
All right, rock and roll.
Love watching that intro. Reminder of all the cool guests we've had. I forget how many conversations over the last 8 months. So it's really cool to see where we are now, and like besides how many relationships we've made, just the cool advice that we've gotten over time through this show.
Yeah, we've had some fun conversations for sure, especially on these guest episodes.
They're my favorite, and that's really the reason why we're leaning more towards honing in on guests. I think we realize the powerful conversations comes from the outside advice, and with we're learning, I feel like everybody else is. We love to share information, but it's just nice to have that outside perspective and outside specialty. So there's a lot of things we don't know, and we love to bring people on and hear their stories. And Tracy is one of those people who not just accounting and payroll, but about how to grow your business as well. There's a lot of things that even I've learned and Corey and I have learned in the short amount of time that we've talked to her. A few strategy things, few eye-opening things is like, this is just the way it has to be. So I think it's really important that you set your business up the right way, because you can spend a lot of time searching on Google for an answer you're not sure about. And it really slows you down from the things you should be doing in a business. So
Tracy's doing a lot of, as I kind of zoom out and take a look at it, I feel like the way she's running her business is very she's thinking things through the way that someone like a Nick Nielsen is. Like they're on a separate level and looking at everything on the macro, and it really makes sense. The puzzle pieces seem to fit. So I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah. There's just there is this high level or people who, almost see the earth from the moon, is like they can get the whole picture and they have this idea of where they want to be. And they're really good at figuring out where they want to be and creating and backing into it, but creating the steps to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're right. I do see that. And I think it's a level of experience as well as a level of talent. Everything's a little bit of both. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Tracy. Hey, Tracy, how's it going?
Hey guys, how are you? I'm great.
Good.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Why don't we give everybody or give you the chance to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Kantex, and then we can go into some fun topics.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Tracy Jepson. I am the CEO of Kantex Financial. We've technically only been Kantex for a year, though I've been in business teaching business strategy to owners for over 6 years now, and have been just in the accounting industry for over 20. So this is kind of my wheelhouse, and working with small business owners and teaching them how to be profitable and create the foundations in their business that they need to be successful is my favorite thing to do, and really making that connection between like business and personal finances. I think that's really what makes us different. And it's a true advisory service. You're not just coming to us to get numbers or have your books done, that kind of thing. We are not CPAs. We do not do tax, though we have a CPA on staff now. So that's been pretty exciting. But we really partner with people's CPAs or refer them out to our partners and make sure that they have sort of a financial board of directors around them. So a lot of the financial advisors that we connect with here, we're also linking them with our clients. So if we're not working with them in their businesses, we may be reaching out and saying, hey, we have a client who has a need. So we are really creating, like I said, a structure and a foundation for our clients. And it's so much fun.
That's great. I can tell the passion. It's something that I enjoy. Where did you start, and where did you, I guess, take this passion? How did it lead you into the accounting world?
Yeah, I think it was really an accident in college. I was working for a landscaping firm and spent a lot of time, and I was like cleaning their offices, just doing mundane admin kind of work, and started spending a lot of time with their office manager. And I wanted to know more about QuickBooks and how the business ran. And I really wanted to understand the financial side of things. I mean, I would see plans and invoices and notes in this disaster of an office all over the place. And I was just like, I want to know how all these pieces connect. Like, I am a super visionary type person. And so I just spent a lot of time with her and eventually learned how to run their business from a bookkeeping and financial standpoint. And it kind of grew from there. After I graduated, I took a job with a business owner. He and his wife owned a couple of different entities, and I ended up running all of those for them. And so I started just understanding how small business owners functioned and some of the stress points that they had. I ended up working in corporate accounting for a publicly traded company out in Virginia for about 6 years. And then when I moved back to Topeka and got married, I was again back to working for small business owners. And there was just something about it. Like, I could see the challenges they were having, and I knew that they needed more than what they were doing. And they didn't have those resources. They didn't have business coaches. Like, I don't know when that kind of became a thing. Like, maybe it always has, but I just knew that they needed somebody to tell them what to do. And they were listening to me internally. And I thought, this is something that I can do. And then when we started going through Dave Ramsey's process of getting out of debt, I needed more income into our household. So I picked up a couple of clients on Craigslist and quickly replaced my full-time income, and eventually took my job on as a client. So it's kind of just snowballed like crazy, and then ended up bringing on a partner in January and created Kantex out of all of that. So it's just been this evolution of education and just being able to help business owners. And because I was doing it for myself, like, it's very clear to me how to get those kind of profitable foundations into their companies.
That might have been the fastest 120-second resume I've ever heard in my life. Tracy, who are you?
I think it's all important, though. Like, I think it is important. Like, no, I do not have an accounting degree. I took a lot of accounting classes in college. That's not what I went to school for. I actually wanted to be a British literature professor. Like, that was
well, that
actually
makes
like
sense.
that was my life.
I feel like they tie right in, right? They're like hand in hand.
Very, very
small
similar.
business operator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Who's your ideal client today? Who are you working with that is, what industry? What does that look like?
Yeah, so really service-based businesses. We have kind of a couple of pretty solid niches. So we work in the financial services industry and then realtors. And I think kind of what I've narrowed it down to, and people are going to say, Tracy, those aren't anything similar, but we really like to help people who help other people with their money. People who are helping people make really big decisions with their financials, ironically, have usually terrible financials themselves and have no idea how to manage their own, but they're really good at telling other people what to do, but they have a very hard time kind of looking in the weeds and going like, hey, I actually have my own mess here, but I'm not focused on that because I'm just trying to make money because they're trying to sort of out earn their stupidity, if you will. But yet they're helping other people make really big decisions, but they might not quite have it all together. Generally, the firms that we're working with, we do have a few startups, but we're really in the like 250,000 to 5 million range. So, but a lot of service-based businesses. We do have people that work outside of that with us. Like we've got some HVAC companies and some other types of service industries. We don't work with anybody who sells products, like physical products, like Amazon sellers, e-sellers. We have great people who we refer those to, but that's not our thing.
That's great. And the other thing I'd like to bring up too is about your business growing so quickly. And I feel like we hear this story a lot, but what I love about your backstory is it sounds like you just engrossed yourself in not only your passion, but the experience to get to where you were when you made that jump. So what I think is when you're putting out ads or when you're communicating on Craigslist, when you're talking to people, you were already powerful. You were already punching at that point. You knew exactly what to say. You knew what their problems were. I think it's something that we hear a lot is the explosive growth. And people forget about the education and the experience they went through to get to that point to be capable of springboarding.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like sort of like hard knocks going through it. And I think specifically the working for the couple right after college, one of them ran a trucking company and the other one ran a fertilizer industry kind of entity. And their dynamic as a couple was probably the thing that was the most educational and how I'm able to help people now. They ended up going through a terrible divorce, but I could tell that this was coming from a long way away, even when their friends and family didn't know, because I could see that she kept taking money out of the business constantly. Like every week was just pulling money and unplugging the ability for that company to function. And he was hiding money in another entity. Like, I don't think people understand, like when we can get 5 minutes in somebody's books, I can almost tell you what's going on in their life because I have seen it. I have worked with clients who have hired us to get them really profitable and get them out of debt and do all of these kinds of things, to have a spouse or a partner come and sabotage the entire thing because there's actually more marital problems that are going on than actually business problems. So that connection between personal and business finances is just so important to me. I know that's what my foundation was based on when I was starting this up. Like there had to be a lot of trust in our household that, Tracy was just going to quit her job and all of a sudden things were going to be fine. But I just want people to have success in their lives. And it just happens to come that I'm helping them through their business to do that.
I want to make sure we provide, like, we could have this conversation for quite a while because, as you know, full disclosure, Ryan and I have started working with Kantex recently, and there's a lot we can talk about. But I want to deliver as much value as possible to the advisors watching, and in doing so, what I think I've noticed and what I shared last night on one of your posts was this is more than excuse me, this is more than an accounting firm, right? And what we've learned is Ryan and I we're gleaning into working with you and saying, wow, we got off that call. That experience was really nice. That user experience felt well thought out. So Nick drops a comment in here and says, how do you differentiate yourself from a different accounting firm or a typical accounting firm? And I don't want to answer that for you, but I will say, having started another business prior to Ryan and I starting MCO Advisors, I have worked with an accounting firm and I've worked with and talked to other accountants as I've figured out who I wanted to work with. And by far what you're doing with Kantex is different. And I'd love to know how you've figured that out, implemented it, and then answer Nick's question, what it is that makes you guys different. But how have you unlocked this user experience thing that makes you a firm that helps people operate, not just count numbers?
I know that helping somebody operate is what actually changes their numbers. So we are a bookkeeping firm. That is what we do, but it's not why we do what we do. Like, I want to help somebody be profitable. We have to do bookkeeping for people because that's the only way we can get good numbers. Like if you have somebody who's in-house and you have an in-house accountant and that kind of thing, we will work with that person. Like that's great. People come to us and have internal internal accounting teams already. And that's amazing, because then we can really focus on sort of higher level advisory and actually putting the systems in place that they need to grow and looking at their processes and really kind of diving in. But we know that most people who come to us tell us that if they've had an experience with an accounting firm, it's usually been a bad one, because typically there's bad communication. They don't know what's going on. They don't hear from their bookkeeper. They don't get asked questions. They don't get financials on a regular basis, and they don't understand their financials. Those things are a huge problem in our industry, and I have always been committed to being different than that. I want to make sure that education is the number one immutable law in my life, like education for myself, my team, and my clients. And if somebody doesn't understand why we're doing something or understand what the numbers mean or what they're telling them, it's completely pointless. Like, I want this to be a true experience that it's going to lift your business, lift your life, find the freedom to exit your business or get away from it. Like, you guys know, I really only work about 3 days a week. The reason is because I've put myself in a position where I have a team around me and I know where our revenue levels are, where I don't have to be stuck to my desk all day. Like right now, I'm sitting here with you guys, but I'm going to be golfing in 45 minutes. So like, that's just kind of what we put in place. But what makes us different is our communication, and is that we're actually teaching our clients something. We're not just giving them numbers. If somebody is just giving you numbers, they are doing a complete disservice to you, and they're not being that true advisor. Like, I want somebody to come to us who really wants to understand the why behind their things and to be able to actually grow from it and from what we teach them.
Yeah, I love that, because there's something special about seeing the number when you're having the conversation, and they really play off each other. So when you're talking about the operations and you're talking about what's going on, and you say, I think you're wasting time here. It's not, I think you're wasting time. Look at these dollars, or look at this money. Look where your money's going. You said you wanted to hire somebody, and you have a tech stack of $500 a month that you could be handing this to somebody on Upwork to get the videos you wanted. And that changes the business completely, is making those little changes. So something I'm excited for, and something I think that makes you guys really different, is making the tangible connection between here's my advice and here's why it matters.
Why don't you dig into that, Ryan? Sorry, Trace. After Tracy answers this, Ryan, dig into that, because last night we were chatting and I was like, what specifically do you want to talk to Tracy about? And this was one of the things. So Tracy, I apologize for stepping on your answer there.
I could just talk all day, and so I just wanted to get this out.
Until golf.
Until golf. I mean, tea times are important.
Yeah.
I was talking with a client. It was on a prospect call this week, and they're actually coming on as a new client with us. But what he told me, he's like, we have an accountant. She also does our taxes. We have good numbers, or they think they have good numbers, but they don't know how to use them. And when they asked her, we implement profit first into our business, or can we add this expense? Can we afford to hire somebody? Her answer was, I don't know. It's your business. You have to decide. When people come and work with us, yes, it's your business, and yes, you get to make the decisions, but we're going to bring to you the things that we're seeing. Like, we see hundreds of different businesses. I can tell you what most of the tech stack that everybody uses, where it's duplicated, what's going on, because we have that experience. I'm going to give you my opinion because you're paying me for it, whether you want it or not. And sometimes those are hard conversations. And sometimes they do go really well, but we're here to not just say, I don't know, it's your business. Like, we have opinions, and that is where our advisory is different than most any other accounting office.
So agree. Everybody should feel that experience. I think everybody should have a team behind them. And as much as we believe in marketing and being the consultants, like you said, sometimes I have this, it's not even a theory. I just think it's real, is where you're too close to a problem. So you can't really see what's happening, and it's good to back yourself out of it. And I think with more experience, you take a step back and you get to look bigger and bigger picture. But if you're having trouble taking a step back and you're having trouble quantifying your problem, that's when it's time to get somebody else's voice in your head. And even if myself is saying that I'm an operator, or a Corey saying that he's an amazing marketer, we know when we need another voice. And I think that's important for everybody to realize in themselves. And that obviously helps your business tenfold if you can admit what you don't know and work on those things, because our weaknesses are just the ball and chain on our strengths.
Yeah, it's really important to bring in other people's brains, other people's opinions that aren't yours. Have somebody else take a look at what you're doing. I mean, I can tell you, I'm not going to go out and do my marketing for myself. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have a business coach. I was on a show with her earlier this week. It's on my feed if you want to go back and look at it. But no, I have somebody who looks at my mess too. Like this isn't like, oh, I'm the end all be all, and because I've grown this, what I think is an incredible business, that I did it all by myself. Like I have a team. I have people, advisors who I go to and who I use. Like that's so important. Like I invest in that in my business, and I want my clients to want to invest in that.
When you practice what you preach, and that's what we're trying to do as well. Is we know how important it is, so we're doing it too. It's all full circle. Yes. I feel like, and to get into something that I was interested in, something that we talked about right away was when you're hiring. And I had a post that I was writing, and I'm thinking about this. It's not only strategy, but it's the law. There's some things you need to follow and need to know about hiring somebody. So why don't you, especially in the financial planning world, because we're used to getting 1099s, doesn't mean you can give somebody else one. So we have to make sure we're doing this right. Why don't you talk a little bit about the difference between a 1099 and W-2?
Yeah, so I'm always very interested when financial advisors are like, oh, I just get a 1099 from my brokerage or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, actually, you're an employee and you shouldn't be getting a 1099. And there is a legal difference. So there's three basically principles that are looked at by the IRS when it comes to determining someone's status. It's behavioral control, financial control, and relationship. So behavioral control, can an employer or can this entity who is paying you tell you when to be there, tell you how to do a process, basically control the systems that you're using? Can they prevent you from hiring out the service? So say you hire me to do your accounting and I outsource it. I can do that because I'm a contractor to you guys. If I was your employee and I was sitting in your office and I was going to outsource the work, that's an employee relationship. Like you guys wouldn't let me do that. So if you can control my behavior, tell me when to show up, where I need to be working from, how I need to be doing the work, that is a behavioral controls that those don't get crossed from the IRS. That's a huge red flag when they go to do this. Financial control is another thing. So a contractor typically has and this kind of goes into relationship as well. Employees get paid hourly, they get paid, salary, that kind of thing. A contractor is going to have a contract. It's going to have a set period of time. It's going to say we're working together for 1 year and here's how much the annual rate is going to be. And there's going to be a very clean cut. It's not going to be, oh, well, you might work 30 hours this week and 20 hours this week and 15 hours the next. Like that's an employee. At that point, if the financials, the money and that's changing hands is being controlled by the initial company, this is probably an employee. It's also going to be, can this person actually go out and get revenue from another source? So if you're an advisor at a brokerage, can you also go work at Best Buy, or can you go work for another broker? Like, what are you allowed to do? Can they control your finances? And then just that relationship again. So what is the time frame? Are you giving people benefits? Do they get vacation time? You're not typically giving a contractor vacation time. You're not giving them commissions or bonuses or anything like that. You're giving employees those types of things. And when the IRS goes back and finds out, if there's a question, like let's say, and this happened in the last year, especially when everyone was applying for unemployment, if somebody goes and files for unemployment and they say you're not actually an employee anywhere, you don't have any unemployment available to you, they can go back and sue that employer. And if the IRS determines that that person was actually an employee, and we had an old client that we haven't worked with for a couple of years, and I just recently heard that he actually got sued during the pandemic for this exact same thing. He not only is responsible for his part of the taxes, he's responsible for that employee's part of the taxes. And he was charged over $100,000
since they started.
Since they started from the day one. There's also things, you can end up converting somebody from a 1099 to an employee. So right now, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, shoot, like I've got a situation where I probably have
I'm sure they didn't say shoot.
I didn't know what I was allowed to say on this.
No,
so it's not happy.
It's more about LinkedIn, less about us. We're fine.
Yes. But no, they can actually have, an audit come up if you end up giving an individual a 1099 and a W-2 in the same year. There needs to be some sort of event that happens in order to create them to become an employee. So if it's like, oh, I just screwed up, just know that it could cause some red flags. But in general, as long as you're doing things the legit way, you should be good. But if you're also listening to this and going, I really think I'm an employee, I would encourage you to go to your employer or whoever contracted you and have a serious conversation, because it's they can get in a ton of trouble for this.
What would you consider an event to be able to make that switch?
Yeah, so there could be a new business could be created. So that's a possibility. Like maybe you change names, or let's say you had somebody who was working part-time, like while they were in college, and then all of a sudden they've graduated. That could be a qualifying event. Also, sort of that relationship thing. If the person is doing a service that's not normal to the business, it could be a contractor. So let's say I brought in somebody as a contractor to do tax. Kantex does not do tax. If we decided that, hey, this is going really great, and I love that this contractor can bring in all of this new business, and we decide that we're going to start offering tax services, we could now bring her on as an employee instead of a contractor, and that would be sort of a qualifying event that she was doing something before that our business was never doing a part of. If we had a marketing contractor and they were, doing marketing for us, and then all of a sudden we were going to start selling marketing to our clients, those would be a really good that would be a really good qualifying event that something massive has changed in the business or the relationship from the two people.
Keep your questions coming, guys. And Nick, I'm going to jump into you in a second. One of the things I also wanted to ask from a business structure standpoint, I think sometimes people are wondering, should I LLC or should I S-Corp? When you're making those decisions, at what point are you making changes, or I guess, how do you figure out how to start?
Yeah, and I want to be very clear. So I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, but I work with them, and this comes up a lot. So always get tax advice from your CPA. Like, that's my little disclosure. But
Sure.
What you're talking about are actually two different things. So an LLC is a legal entity, and being taxed as an S-Corp is a tax structure. So they're actually two separate things. So generally a sole proprietor would go to being an LLC as a legal entity. So you're still going to put this on your 1040. It's still going on your personal return, but the LLC is like a little jacket that you get to put on for personal protection. So someone can't come after you and sue for your personal assets for a business event. So you guys did, something that really pissed off one of your clients. All of a sudden they're going to come sue you. Well, if you guys are an LLC, they can't come get your personal assets for that. If you are working as a sole proprietor, and I will tell you, I see a ton of financial advisors who are making a lot of money that when I see their W-9s that they are sole proprietors, and it's just like makes me cringe, and I send them messages and like, please stop doing this. At least get an LLC around yourself in order to protect your personal assets. Now, when you talk about being taxed as an S-Corp, this has a lot of different things that come into it. There are a lot of different opinions about when you should switch over this. If you're going to have multiple partners or multiple shareholders under an S-Corp, you can have up to 100 shareholders. This is also a really great way to save on self-employment tax, but there's some things that come along with being a single member S-Corp. So Jepson Solutions, my original company, is an S-Corp. That means I have to put myself on payroll. The IRS expects me to pay myself a reasonable salary. I can still take dividends, that kind of thing, but Jepson Solutions cannot be a partner in another S-Corp. So only an individual can be a partner in an S-Corp. Jepson Solutions can't be a partner in anything else. So partnerships, S-Corps, it's kind of all a legal structure or a tax structure, but it also does have some legal ramifications to it. And I definitely recommend before you switch to being an S-Corp, because there are so many rules around it, please talk to your CPA and make sure that it actually works for your tax situation. I know some people in California, and I think it's Florida, I could be saying that wrong, it is actually more expensive because it's so expensive to become an LLC. They just do the S-Corp at the same time because it's actually cheaper. Not always the best way to go. Again, talk to your CPA and make sure for your personal tax situation that that's the best way to go.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. And and you realize how much there is to it. And I think a lot of this, you get into the business young. You're either in the insurance industry or you start as a financial planner. If you're lucky enough to start as a W-2 and learn, I think that's the greatest way. But a lot of times you get thrown into 1099, you just end up putting it in your bank account and you don't ever think about this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're 40 and you've been in the business a long time because it's always gone well until one of those fires happen, and it can be the worst thing. So I think it's really important to be able to move fast. And I think one of the things you can have by moving fast is by covering yourself, having the CYA infrastructure in place that makes sure you can handle what comes at you, because being sued as a young business can ruin you. An employee's bad name or trying to get to their unemployment can ruin you as a young company. So these are crucial things that we've been thinking about, and the reason we talked to you about them, and the reason why I wanted to bring you on and share them as well.
Well, and I think, again, this is a differentiator. you can go to a bookkeeping agency and they couldn't care less how you're structured or what you're doing. This is why we bring in partnership with CPAs to make sure that what we're doing is making sense for, especially when it's partners like this, that it makes sense for both of you guys. Personally, it fits exactly what you should be doing from a tax perspective, bringing in that financial advisor. Like, we really want to create this partnership structure around people, because I know how important it is to have these things right. If you go to tax time and they're like, oh, wow, you really should have been doing something different, we can bring those conversations in much, much sooner to help a lot of tax avoidance, not tax evasion. It's very different things. But we can actually see that long in advance and make sure that that's in place for our clients.
Not that I think it's necessarily widespread, but one of the things I feel like in just listening to you and having conversations that Ryan and I have with clients and prospective clients is, I wonder if the majority of advisors don't think of themselves as small businesses. They just think of themselves as these sole.
They do not.
Just a dude, just a person or a woman.
Oh, I just get a 1099 for my brokerage, and that's just what I do. Well, do you have any idea what that means? Like, there's so many opportunities that they have for the fact that they can be contractors, if they really are in fact contractors. And I think that this is probably like an entire industry problem that is out there, because there are so many that are 1099. But no, they don't realize that they are a small business. They don't realize that they have benefits and that they can actually get, tax deductions from their home offices, from, all these other different things, because they're getting that 1099. They also may not realize what they're missing out on by not either forcing the issue on being an employee, or starting to ask the questions from, somebody like us, or, somebody else who can help them get a foundation set up.
I'll take it a step further. I think when you think you're just a solopreneur, you're the entrepreneur, the only one. Yeah. I think the idea of hiring is frightening and scary. It's like, whoa, I cannot take money out of my wallet to pay this person. But if you think of yourself as a small business and have the conversation with Kantex and kind of put the framework in place, what can you afford? What do you need? Here's how we would structure you bringing on a W-2 employee. I think the just switching that mind, that context, that mind frame makes being able to grow your business so much easier.
It does. And I think, and Ryan, you and I have talked about this, and I want to make sure that we say it because we had this conversation before, but also just deciding how you want to bring on somebody. Like, do you actually want a W-2 employee, or do you want to have a 1099 contractor? And it goes back to those three sort of rules of engagement. Do you want to be able to control how this person works and when they work and how they do their work and when, the outcome that's put out? So you have to really think too, is this hiring an Upwork person? Is this truly hiring an outsourced company like Kantex as a contractor? Like, we are a true contractor for our clients. Or is this something that you want in-house and you want to be able to control what's happening?
Yeah, I completely agree. I also have a very specific question for you. Let's not name drop or company name drop. So I guess we don't get anybody in trouble. But let's say you work for a firm that pays you 1099 and they say, you have to spend 70% of your time as an advisor, and you also can't run these OBAs. As they start to box you in, at what point are they breaking the law?
Immediately.
What would you do about that if it's happening to, let's say, 17 or 18,000 advisors?
I feel like there should probably be some, hypothetically,
just in case, just wondering.
Like somebody could bring in a class action lawsuit, I suppose. I think it's going to take somebody to start raising their hand and asking the question. There is, on the IRS website, there's a really great checklist to go through that you can ask yourself yes or no on about 20 different questions that says, am I an employee or am I a contractor? And if most of the answers are yes on that employee side, your employer or that entity has a lot of questions to be answering. You can file with the IRS. You could go file with unemployment. I mean, there's a lot of places you could go turn somebody in for this kind of thing. I think it's also to the extent of what where you're going to go with it. I think a lot of people get intimidated and think, okay, this, super national firm has a lot more money than I do. And who am I to go and try to buck the system? But I've said this a million times, I don't like to be told what to do. And I kind of like to break systems like that. So if it were me, I'd probably say something, but it blows my mind that.
I mean, that's happening a lot.
This industry. I know. It blows my mind.
I'm sure it's all. I mean, it's No, I mean, it's really once you step away from captive, which is what every advisor wants, you step into 1099. And nearly every single one of those situations, in my opinion, is most likely breaking the law when they're telling you can't do something.
I would agree.
Because they're stepping into controlling your time. That's very interesting.
Yeah, they're controlling your time. They're controlling the way you work, how you work, what you say. I mean, you can't like something on Facebook. Like, come on. That sounds like a lot of control to me.
Now we're really getting into it.
Not to just like poke the bear here, but
sure.
but I mean, yeah, these are questions that I have. Like, I don't like to see it. I don't like to see people taken advantage of. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. It's not like, oh, middle finger to the brokerage. Like, I don't like people being taken advantage of, because if something were to happen and they were need like FMLA or need some unemployment, last year was really hard. And they've been stripped of that opportunity because of the way a large, like, I have my thumb on you kind of corporation behaves. I think that's a problem.
When you get to that scale, how come the IRS can't see what they're doing and raise your hand for you?
The IRS has a lot of problems, right? I don't know. I actually don't know. I wish I had answers to that. I don't even think it's a loophole. Like, I don't know how they get away with it. I mean, this is the whole thing. This is the entire reason that Uber has been in the news of, employees versus 1099. Like, the state of California said, no, these are employees. Like, it's happening because somebody stood up and said something.
Interesting. I guess maybe the IRS is not necessarily going to raise hands for, I don't know, but they usually do. They slap you on the wrist kind of people. If you're making mistakes, let's make sure we get this right. Or can you explain this from an employee standpoint? So that is interesting. And I'm sure we could get extremely political if we wanted to.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. They're definitely steering clear of all of that kind of thing. But no, I do. I think it takes people to raise their hand. It took one Uber driver to start asking questions that created a whole lot of other questions to others going, wait, what are we really doing here?
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly, I mean, you can scale, but you really do have to think about these things, because look at what's going on now. I mean, that's going to take over their business for a couple of years, and mindset, it's stress that you bring home. It's all those things.
Yeah.
As working with advisors, what are we, here's a good one. I also wanted to lead into profitability. What are you usually seeing when you're aiming for profitability? What are you doing with an advisor? What are you looking for? Common mistakes, whatever you can add to somebody who's saying, all right, I get hiring, I understand this, like, or sort of, but where am I missing profitability?
So there's a number of places. And one of the most recent advisors that we worked with, he had a profitability issue because he had an ego problem. And I know this is going to sound funny, but he told me, he said, Tracy, I need to take home $450,000 a year. And I said, okay, why? I wanted to know, like, and he's like, well, I have 3 houses and I have all of this and I have this. And I was like, he's like, and my ego just wants to. I said, well, you understand that you're bankrupting your company because your ego wants you to take home more money. So that's one place. The idea that we need to take home a number, like, his was completely arbitrary too. So that was a really interesting conversation. He's a nice guy, but like, yeah, he has this huge inflated ego, and he's like, this is what I need to do, and didn't care to what extent it hurt his business to do that.
Not an advisor.
No, I love advisors. You don't understand, like that. But again, he had this persona that he thinks he needs to keep up because he has this huge firm, and they have all of this AUM. Like, he just felt like he needed to be doing that. I will also tell you, he has contractors and not employees, and he should have the other way around. So he actually has a lot of issues going on. One of the other areas of profitability that we run into, marketing. Oh my gosh. I feel like, and this is, I know, right in your guys' wheelhouse, people are just throwing money at the wall. When I ask somebody, what is your ROI on this? Why are you putting out Google ads? Why are you putting out Facebook ads? I don't care what the answer is. So like, I'm not attached to the outcome of what anybody does with their business. I just want it to be better. And half the time they have no idea. They just know that somebody told them to buy Facebook ads. So that's what they did. They're not looking at the data behind it. They're not looking at what actually comes into play. They don't know if the message is hitting home. They can't even tell me if they're getting clients out of it. So marketing is a huge place. Tech stack. Everyone has tech that they use to run their business. We have tech that we use in ours. Like, I love it. As long as you have really great processes, systems make things a lot easier. But duplications, 3 and 4 CRMs in these companies. Like, I do not understand why you have so many CRMs. Like, you don't need Infusionsoft and whatever your whatever brokerage company is giving you, and then also paying for some, like ClickFunnels and all these things. Like, somebody needs to go into these offices and say, by the way, all of these things do the exact same thing, and you just need to learn how to use them. Just because one thing is easier over here and a little bit more difficult over here does not mean we need 2 subscriptions to continue to run these pieces of our business. So that's a lot of it. Also, overemployment, like having too many people on your team, and again, not understanding the ROI of what they're bringing on. I do believe in hiring before it's necessary. Like, I'm always very clear about that, but I also believe in having money on hand to hire. So making sure that you can cover somebody's salary for the next 2 or 3 months before you even bring them on is super critical. But just hiring to solve problems isn't always the best way. So those are probably the biggest places. And I think just, unplugging the ability to spend money. Like, I'm not seeing advisors save money for taxes. Like, I understand you guys are trying to put people in products and helping them create plans to avoid tax situations themselves, but you have to be looking at them too. Like, it's important to actually be keeping cash on hand to pay the IRS at the end of the year. And I think maybe the last one is, and just the alternative, the guy that wanted the $450,000 every year. I see people who don't pay themselves at all, and I just have to wonder, like, how is this working? Like, how is your home structure going? Like, how is your spouse not just like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, is this a hobby or is this a business? You have to be able to pay yourself from day one. And by implementing like Profit First or another cash flow management plan, that's what we teach. And that's how we help people start paying themselves what they're worth.
I wish I would have titled this, if I could go back, it would be Profit First. And it was because I went to your page and then I saw your cover page of your LinkedIn, and I realized that would have been the perfect thing that led into overall, but it's still okay. Why don't you take a few seconds before I know you got to go to talk about Profit First? And it sounds like it's what's it called?
It's a cash flow system. I mean, essentially it is really no different than sort of like the envelope.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like a trademark thing. Okay.
It is a trademark thing. So Mike Michalowicz is the author of Profit First. He's a dear friend of mine. I've been involved with their company for almost 5 years now. So it is the number one thing that has changed the trajectory of my business. And I don't just say that because we help other people implement it. Like, that is the one thing that got me paying myself, was able to allow me to quit my job. I got a huge $15,000 tax bill the first partial year that I was in business. I hadn't saved any money. I didn't know how I was going to pay the IRS. I had to go and tell my husband that, hey, by the way, we owe the IRS 15 grand and I don't know where we're going to get it. We had just paid off all of our debt. So it's not like we had a bunch of cash sitting around either. We did have savings, so I paid the IRS. And then one day I heard Mike on a podcast, went and grabbed the book, put it in place, and now I don't mind paying the IRS because it always is in my bank account. So essentially, we are taking every dollar of revenue that comes into your business and allocating it to owner's pay, intentional profit, so actually setting profit off the top immediately, operational expenses, so tax, owner's pay, operational expenses, and having like a separate income account as well. And basically, companies can use this to do a bank balance accounting. So right now, everybody just picks up their phone and they look at their bank balance and go, okay, what can I spend? How much money do I have? What's going on? If you actually had 4 different buckets of money sitting in there and going, oh, this money is actually for payroll, or this is actually for tax, rather than $1,000 a month in one account, and you had it in 5 different accounts, you'd know what you could take home immediately. You'd know what wasn't yours, like what actually belongs to the state and the IRS. We set up different number of accounts in clients' in business. I think we have one client that's got like 38 accounts, and while no means do I encourage anybody else to do that, but it works for them and it's how they're able to save. But it's all about being intentional with your money and not overspending. It's not going into debt and again, create this business out of a hobby that's not actually going to be a business. So it's the best cash management method I know of. And we had, 70 clients on roster last year, and not one of them went out of business during the pandemic. And I have 2 clients. One was a Sicilian tour operator, and the other one does Chinese tourism in America. As you can imagine, their businesses would have taken the biggest hit last year. And because they were both implementing profit first, they had cash on hand. They were able to pay their taxes and they were able to pay themselves during that year. It was hard and they struggled, but they didn't go out of business, and now they're thriving again. Amazing.
Amazing how important it is, and really from a mindset but technical perspective, and the things you actually have to do. But it's funny because right when you say buck, I feel like every advisor, like, taxable, tax-free, like you already think that's what we tell everybody else, and it has to be the same thing. Because it's true. It's easy to look at your bank account and say, I'm thinking about starting this new program. Do I have $6,000? I have $6,000. But do you have $6,000 for that program? Not right. Just in general. And I think that's really important. Tracy, do you have time to answer one more question?
I have all the time for you guys. Cool. I'm going golfing, but I don't really have a tea time sitting out there. We don't need tea times at our club.
I gotcha. No. This is another one from Nick, which goes back to when he was talking about hybrid advisors and regarding brokerage commissions. Do you have a strong feeling on commingling brokerage commissions paid to the advisor with advisory fees paid to the firm?
So if you are paying out, and I have to kind of think of this from a different perspective, like if you are paying out commissions to your advisors, like if you are the advisor inside of your firm and you're getting the agency and you're getting your side of it and you're getting the agency side of it, it's all still your business. Like at the end of the day, like you can use those funds to manage your business, to run your business. I would all look at it as revenue that comes in, and I would allocate it according to our profit first percentages. Personally, I've seen a couple of agencies that they will pay that out to themselves and they will take that home. I don't have a real strong opinion on it, other than I see it all coming in as income to the business because you are your business. So whether it's you that sold it or somebody else in your firm that sold it and those commissions are coming in, to me, I think it's all just income to the business. It's all just revenue that gets redistributed. And if you have a set salary that you're already taking home, it's going to just go in and be a part of that.
Gotcha. Love it. Hey, I appreciate all of your time, and not only answering questions, but kind of delivering your experience and what you've been doing over the last, starting 20 years ago from the accounting industry. So it's amazing everything you've seen. And it's really nice to get that experience and be able to ask those questions. There's nothing more comforting than being able, I don't know what to do. I have a Google that answers me back. Like that's what I feel like I need. And it really does help you move faster when you're confident about somebody telling you, yes, no, do this.
Well, and again, in any business, it doesn't matter what your industry is or where you're at. You don't know what you don't know. And you guys are marketers. There's nobody that said that when you go in to create a marketing business that you need to know how to run your financials. I'm not suggesting that you guys don't know how to run your financials, but that's not a thing. Like,
not the way you do. I understand money. I don't understand financials. That makes sense.
You can create a brokerage. You can go out on your own. You can do all of these things. You can be really good at the thing that you do. But it doesn't mean that you have to be good at all the things. And I think that as new entrepreneurs or people who have small businesses, that is really where they get tied up. There is this impression somewhere, some way that came about that you have to know what you're doing in everything, and that you have to be the one that's sort of puppeting your entire business, and that everything is on your shoulders. And if there is one thing that I have learned in being in business, is that leveraging the people around me and the people that know better than I do, that's who I want doing those things. I'm going to burn myself out so quickly if I go try to do marketing and I go try to build systems and I go try to do sales and all of these things. Like, I can't do all of those roles and do them well. My clients need me to be in the lane that I'm in, and I don't need to be worrying about what is happening on my Facebook page or anything else. Like, I need to stay in my lane, and business owners need almost permission to be able to do that, but they don't have to do everything.
Well summarized. I've been, for the last 30 minutes, I've just been thinking about this. It's for 24 months, I've learned over time here, the unlock for SMBs to growing to the next level is outsource, like stop being the jack of all trades.
Yeah, it's a tainted idea, but yet it's the most popular opinion. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and I'm going to go change the world. Well, great, go change the world, but don't do it all yourself. You can depend on other people. Asking for help is probably one of the biggest vulnerabilities, that when you use it, it can just pay off tenfold in your business.
Yeah, completely agree. Again, really appreciate your time.
I thank you guys for bringing me on. This is so much fun. I always like watching these, so I actually get to be on it is even better.
Yes, it was great. It was great. I appreciate you jumping on again, answering questions. Hope you have fun during golf, and obviously we'll
Thank
talk to
you.
you. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes,
See you,
thanks,
Tracy.
guys. Have a great weekend. Bye.
You
Bye.
too.
Take it easy. I asked a lot of questions. We had those conversations before. I was happy to be able to deliver that to the audience because it's from an advisor standpoint. It was extremely insightful for me. I think there's a lot of young advisors who need to hear this advice. I think there's a lot of established advisors who need to hear this. There's a lot of people who I think, it's eye opening when you hear that stuff and you go, oh shit, like I got some stuff to do. I got some changes to make and I got some infrastructure I need to establish. And it's important to handle those things. Especially
Here's the thing. You guys preach, and you guys are so good at talking about the buckets. And like when we think about it in any other walk of business, marketing or financials, working with Tracy, like you guys probably aren't replicating the buckets in marketing. You're not replicating the buckets in your accounting. Like why? And that's what I've learned in working with and just having these preliminary conversations with Kantex. It's like wow, we can really sleep at night knowing that this stuff is all like taxes, future money to be paid to employees, future money to be paid to us, emergency fund, like having all that stuff set up. It just is crazy to think of like this, someone trying to do this all themselves just fumbles through it and ends up with a number in the bank account that doesn't reflect where the business needs to grow.
I really believe, and this is coming from my experience, your mental capacity fills up much quicker than your physical capacity. And that's when we start slowing down. That's when you start slowing down because you're realizing like, okay, all I have to do is I pay somebody. All I have to do is click a button. All right, now I also have to remember this accounting, or I have to do something for payroll, or I have to, you add these things. I have to do these little bits of trades. You add all these little things in the business, and then you realize like you can't even think about big picture anymore. You're your own admin by accident, and you're stuck in doing the minuscule things that have to get done, but you shouldn't be doing. That's the biggest conversation that you have to have with yourself is if your mental capacity has filled up and you're not moving your business forward, or you're not even able to start marketing. There's so many people who don't start marketing and they have all the money in the world. That's all mental capacity. They're stuck up here because they could hand it to us. So it's just about finding that place where you realize you need help. You can't do it all, and we have to figure those things out and where we need to delegate.
It's completely changed my mind. Like holding on to this bucket of cash, like great. It feels good to look at it, but like that doesn't move the business anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I love how she put it, and like I said, a switch goes off when they're like, dude, we talk about buckets all the time. Like it makes perfect sense. We need an emergency fund. We need a business fund. We need to be able to pay employees. That's a responsibility we have, and we need to bring in money. That's a responsibility to us and our families. How do these things get done? And the other thing why I love having another pair of eyes is because not only do we realize this, but now somebody coaches us through. These are the steps of what we need to do. The same way we're helping with marketing. They can help with operations, and having somebody with so much experience just really helps. So that's what we've been going through and how we're building. And it not only helps our business, but it helps our marketing. It helps our message because it clears you up to be more creative. There's so much unquantifiable shit going on right now when you delegate something away from somebody. It really is the game changer.
Well, think about like, not to make this about us, but like, I'm just thinking about it in real time. What if you have a meeting with us every 2 weeks and you don't have to think creatively all the time? Like, I'm just going to jump on with my guys. They're going to tell me what to do. Like that frees up an entire block out of your mind. Think about that. Like that would excite me to jump on the phone. I'm just going to jump on with Ryan. He's going to tell me, like, give me all these ideas. I'm just going to be like, here's, like, that's so easy.
I love financial plans. I love talking to my clients. I don't like creating content. I don't like creating the ideas for content. I'm a decent writer, or I'm okay in film, but what do I say? Where do I go? I'm like, what do you say? You've been in business for 20 years, but I get it. You don't want to think about the creativity, and don't.
So it's such a
hand it off.
Yep, hand it off.
Absolutely. Hey,
Good
appreciate
shit.
you guys sticking around. There's a couple of you guys left. Really, really appreciate you guys jumping on the show. Again, we'll be bringing on more guests, doing these things, and they'll be popping up every once in a while. So while we may lack a little bit more consistency than we had, we're not getting rid of the Advisor to Advisor show and looking to do something big in a couple months. We're hoping. So we just had that initial conversation. I won't say any more than that because I don't want to pin us to anything, but we're looking to put on a pretty decent event with a nice slew of guests, I hope. So appreciate you guys again. As always, let us know what you want us to talk about. Let us know the guests that you guys went on and who you guys follow, which, topics, all that kind of stuff. It really drives the show and it gives us good insight for our business as well. So appreciate all of you and have a great weekend.
Cheers, guys.
Well,
good show.
Where are we? Rick, off the record.
It's really a big deal to me. I can't stop thinking about it since we.
I'm stalling because I'm literally, as I'm trying to present for the show, I'm thinking about the things that she said, and I'm just like, it is a hard conversation. It's a hard conversation with yourself sometimes, and when you just go like, you feel like either whether you're running on a hamster wheel or like a treadmill situation, you're running really fast, you just don't feel like you're going anywhere, like you're putting in miles, but you're not traveling. Those things are annoying, but they're important to break through and get to because it really is worth it to grow the business. I think everybody really wants to, and we have to get out of our own way. And we're both realizing that in our own time and realizing what we're both good at. And not only do you realize what you're good at, but you have to perform those things. And once we start taking each other away from taking away from you creating content and putting you into operations world, or taking me out of operations and putting me into possibly editing videos, it's things that may have to get done, but even if they're getting done, it's slowing us down. Really important conversations and things that we're realizing. And it's been fun at the same time because I'm excited for where we go from here.
If we can continue to grow this thing, I have no doubt that we have a performance or business coach that we meet with once a month.
Yeah. And my guess is whether she calls herself or not, that's Tracy.
It might be, but there's going to be a point in time, because I think you and I both realized where it's like, you stop thinking about this, you stop thinking about that, focus on this. Let's put the people where they need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think what you get into too is why we focus on marketing. It's easy to tell people like, no, don't do that. You're wasting your time there. Don't do this. It brings a smaller scale and we can hone in on that specialty. And obviously we bring into planning, business structure, my experience, your experience. But when you're honing in on a whole business, it really is a big thing. It's a lot to think about. And there's so many moving pieces. It really is nice to be told what to do. Even though we're growing our own business to the whole point, so nobody tells us what to do, you realize at the end of the day, it really is nice when somebody just says, stop doing that dumb shit.
When I hear, I've said this on the show before, but when I hear in the podcasts I listen to and the YouTube videos I watch, the people that I look up to and aspire to grow to, when I hear they have their coaches and their outsourced pieces in place, it blows my mind.
Everybody, every single one.
I thought you did this all alone. They're like, nope, I've got a career coach that I've been working with for 20 years.
LeBron James puts $2 million back into his body as well as his mind when he's able to perform that way and able to sustain at that level.
What a great point. LeBron's not in the gym by himself all summer.
Never. He's never buying. Well, maybe. But yeah, you're right. There's always somebody there. There's a nutritionist. This is what you eat. This is why you eat it. This is what you're doing. Like, these are your moves. Like,
tuck
your athleticism,
your
athleticism takes care of itself. But here's the reminders. Here's the thing. Here's how you lift so you don't get injured because you need to play the game. Everything, I think, is another person. And at the end of it, there's probably a mental aspect, like a Tony Robbins individual who's just reminding him how good he is and why he's doing this, and narrowing those PowerPoints down and getting them back in the game.
Not that I would have ever doubted that, but that makes so much sense. His staff is probably 40.
I imagine, yeah, I'd imagine. I imagine he walks into a building that probably does that for people, and either they're their home or he has his own personal when you get to that level. Comedians, everybody you see, when you find out somebody is a killer, you find out they've talked to Tony Robbins. I don't know why, it just always happens, or somebody like him. There's always a business or a mindset coach because we're all people. Somebody comes from the outside, you fix your brain a little bit, I feel like your talent kicks back on, because the only thing that can slow down talent is yourself.
Yeah, that's huge. That's so true.
Good show. It really is self-reflecting when you focus on your business from that point, but you fix yourself, you fix your business. And that's what I think Tracy pointed out. I feel like I always knew that, but when she really hones in on it, you realize how much it affects your personal life and business. You want to separate the emotions, but they're so close because it's personal finances, your money you're taking home. I'm growing the business so I can support my family. Of course, they're tied together.
Dude, I hired an accounting firm for Marketers Company when I first started it in 2019. And it was like basically like, sign here, we're going to bill you every month, da-da-da. And like, I was gone, hadn't heard from and he's like, here's an email address if you have questions. Signing on with Kantex, way different.
Dude, I love my accountant as a person because I know him, but he sent me but I sent him an email and I said, here's all my stuff. I'm sorry I got it to you so late. And he said, actually, I'm going on vacation. I already set you up for an extension. So we'll talk when I get back. I didn't have the money, but I'm not setting up for retirement. I'm not doing a lot of things. Like, I don't know where my taxes are going to be. It's an after situation. He should have been the one. Now I realize also who honed in and told me where I was at my job, because it was during that time he was looking at my 1099s. He should have been Tracy and been like, hey, time for you to raise your hand, or time for this to happen, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's why I'm there.
Yep. Agreed.
Tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. I'm good at doing, and I'm good at listening. Appreciate you guys. Fun off the record. Maybe some clips in there somewhere about some fun stuff. I don't know, but good stuff. We got some things to do. We got to record something. We got to do our newsletter for Bomb Bomb. We got to, if we're going to do that, or write your part. And then we were going to record, what the hell were we giving? Then we got to record something for Kristen so she can add to the big email that's going out to everybody.
Let's do all that right now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will. All right. See you guys. Have a good day. Thanks for hanging out for the extra time. There's 3 people. I think one of them's me, one of them's you, and one of them's Tracy.